In this video, we're going to look at the Vlookup function. We're working right now on the sheet called grades. Now, Vlookup stands for vertical lookup. We're also at some point in time going to be looking at a horizontal lookup, which is called an HLOOKUP. But as a rule, for the most part, you're usually using a Vlookup, a vertical lookup. Now, the purpose of a Vlookup is to move information from one table to another table. So we're trying to move information or data from one table to another table. What I've done initially is that I've highlighted this area from A4 to B13. This is a table. It's also called in Vlookup talk the table array. The table array is the underlying table that makes Vlookup work. You cannot have a Vlookup function work if you don't have a table array. So our table array, once again, is this highlighted area from A4 to B13. And the function is going to try to take these letters and move them to this other table based upon the various numeric grades. Still, focusing on this table array, the underlying table, the key to Vlookup, it's important to note that it's made up of two columns. Here's column 1, here's column 2. Now, column 2 has the various letters. And of course, column 1 has the various grades. Column 1, column 2. Now let's look over here. My cursor right now is in cell G4. And what we're going to try to do is bring over the appropriate grade for student 1 who received a 65. Now really how Vlookup is going to work is going to say, okay, 65, jump over here, come down to this point, and in column 2 in my table array is the student's letter grade, a D+. Likewise, for student 2, he received a 77. And Vlookup is going to come over and say, okay, 77, move over to my table array, and then in between 75 and 80 is my letter grade. And this particular student, because he's not all the way up to 80, is not going to get a B. A 77 is in between. It's not an exact match. This student will then get a C+. We'll do one last one, and then we'll illustrate the actual function. 82, come over to my table array. It's going to be between 80 and 85, but it's not all the way up to 85, so as a result, that student would get a B. For our Vlookup function, we're going to start off in cell G4. To get our function, we're going to click on FX. We're going to type in Vlookup here if it's not already appearing. Now, I've used it recently, so it is appearing. But if you don't see it, you would type in Vlookup, click on Go. It would show up. Make sure that it's highlighted here. and then click OK. Now you're going to see with the Vlookup function, there's 4 lines of data that you have to fill in, or 4 arguments. And each argument, as you go from line to line, is described. In case you don't know what these things signify. But let's start off line 1. Lookup value. Now, the lookup value is going to be right here. This is what I'm looking to find out what the letter is. So I'm going to click on F4. That is my lookup value. F4. Next, line 2 is my table array. And once again, the key to Vlookup is having the correct table array. Vlookup will not work if you don't have a valid table array. So you need to come over here and trace it from A4 to B13. That's my table array. And then, and this is so important, tap F4. We need to make that table array an absolute. And I repeat, after tracing that table array, A4 to B13, we need to make that range an absolute. And what I did is I tapped F4, function key F4, to make it an absolute. And we can see we have these dollar signs everywhere. So here's our table array. Column index. Column index throws a lot of people. They're not quite sure what that means. And what the column index signifies is the column within your table array that is marking off what you're looking for. In this case, it's the letter grade. Remember, here's our table array. It's made up of 2 columns. Column 1, column 2. Column 2 has our letter grade. And this is also important. You need to put in a number there. In this case, column 2 is a number 2. You don't start putting in a letter, column B or whatever. It has to be numeric. So within your table array, in column 2 is your letter grade. Next, we're going to go to the range lookup. And what's happening there, the range lookup, the fourth line or fourth argument signifies, are you looking for an exact match or an inexact match? Okay, and it's described over here. In this case, we're looking for an inexact match. Okay, once again, we are looking for an inexact match. So we can type in either 1 or true. I'm going to put in 1. I could have typed in true also. Click OK. Here's my letter. If I quickly double left click it, it's kind of telling me what's happening. Based upon F4, I'm coming over to this table array. I'm looking for my answer in column 2. That's within my table array. Column 2 has my letters. And I want an inexact match. I'm going to go to my fill handle and drag that down. Now, just worth looking at. Let's go up to our top VLOOKUP. The first one that we did. I mean, it does have the correct information. But if I need to edit that cell or that function, I'm clicked on it. Click on FX. I'm going to leave everything the same except for line 4. I'm going to say I want an exact match. So I'm going to change that 1 to 0, or I could have typed in false. Come here, drag it down, and all of a sudden you're going to see a number of NAs. For instance, this 77, it's coming over here, trying to find 77, but because I signified that I wanted an exact match, there is no 77 within that table array. Likewise for 82, comes over to my table array, there is no 82 listed. And once again, why that's happening is because I had gone up and signified that I wanted an exact match, 0 or false. Now I'm going to change that back to the way that it was. We're going to make it a 1. Click OK. Drag it down. Just double checking on this last one. FX. My lookup value is still, or it's changed. It's based upon the 92, which happens to be in F18. My table array, we locked it in. It's right here. The column index, the letters, what we're looking for, is in column 2 within the table array. And my range lookup is 1. I want an inexact match. Now here's another way of looking at the VLOOKUP function. I'm going to start over here. And I would recommend doing your VLOOKUPs in this manner. You know, there's going to be only just one change, but it'll be a change that will make it much easier for you. So we're in this cell here. Click on FX. We can see our VLOOKUP, you know, looking at F4. It's looking at the table array. And once again, we highlighted that and we made it into an absolute. Now here's the thing, that it's a common mistake for people using a VLOOKUP to start highlighting their table array and then forgetting to hit F4. And then you end up with all types of mistakes and errors, and it just gets somewhat confusing. So we're gonna look at this table array in a different manner. Basically what we're gonna do is that we're gonna create a named range for that table array. And it just makes it so much easier to work with. So once again, we're going to take our table array. We're going to highlight it. The key here is that we're highlighting the range A4 to B13. That's our table array. Still made up of 2 columns. But what we're going to do now is we're going to apply a named range. Now I'm going to make it easy. We're going to call it our first name. So we're going to come up into the name box. And I'm going to call mine Kevin. Type it in, hit enter. You got to make sure you hit enter. If you want to test it to make sure that that named range took, you click here. Come up to the arrow, click on Kevin, and this is in fact my named range for my table array. So my table array now has a named range called Kevin. So let's go into here, click on FX. Once again, everything is all highlighted here. I'm going to highlight that and delete it. Of course, I'm going to have an error because I don't have a table array here. That's not a problem. Here, I just want to show you how this works. Lookup value, not going to change. It's still F4, but we need to put in our table array. Once again, the table array is what powers Vlookup. Now I could type in Kevin. That's my named range for my table array. Or if I have a whole group of named ranges, another way of getting a listing of them is by tapping function key F3. These are my names. All I have right now is just one, Kevin. Okay. So once again, we get now our table array called Kevin. The answer is still going to be in column 2 within that table array. And I still want an inexact match. Hit OK. Drag that down. And come in here. And you can see where it has taken. We have everything filled out. The only difference being is that our table array now has a named range. And the reason why I turned it into a named range is that by default, a named range is an absolute. Okay, so that's why you don't have to start putting in the dollar signs. By taking your table array, highlighting it, creating your named range, you automatically have made that named range an absolute. But it's just so much easier to use. And once again, it lessens the probability of you making a mistake. Thank you.